Important notice: the following content may be triggering. Viewer discretion is advised. All discussions are based on personal opinions and experiences. If you or someone you know needs help, please reach out to a local support organization. Important note.
Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to Through the Eyes of Survivors Uncensored. We're glad to have you with us today. This is a podcast where we don't hold back, right? We speak the raw and uncomfortable truth about domestic violence, coercive control, stalking, and silence that is too often follows. There we go. Follows women to their. That's all right. I'm Tara Woodlee, and that's my co-host Amanda Johnson. On today's episode, it's not just an account of violence. It's a sobering look at what happens when the systems meant to protect women fail miserably, and children are left to bear the witness and the pain of it. So today, Amanda and I are going to unpack three devastating stories. One of a toddler's testimony where they were soaked in blood, and another of digital abuse and horrifying manipulation. And finally, we're going to talk also about defunding research and how that research could save lives. So before that happens, we need to just quickly do a shout out to our affiliate, Opus Clip. So Opus Clip is one of the tools that helps bring this podcast to life, right? It takes long form content like this podcast and creates it into short form videos. And it's a game changer. We use it all the time here. And it uses the power of AI to do that for you. So it picks out most emotionally impactful moments so that you're not spending hours scrubbing footage to find that. And here's the best part: if you use our affiliate link in the show notes, it will help support Through the Eyes of Survivors Uncensored at no extra cost to you. So whether you're surviving or sharing your truth as a survivor or advocate, and you know somebody who needs to tell their story, Opus Clip can help amplify that voice. So check us out on the link and get Opus Clip today. So, Amanda, we got some wonderful topics today, and we're going to start with that. I saw this story a couple weeks ago. I think 2 weeks ago, maybe a week ago, where I want our listeners to please jump into the comments section, engage with us as we're talking on the topics, and share your opinions and thoughts. But this one was just very horrifying. So imagine you're a 3-year-old who barely knows how to tie their shoes, right? Loves cartoons, and maybe has a favorite snack and a stuffed animal that they can't sleep without, right? And then imagine that same 3-year-old instead playing on a Saturday, wandering into a parking lot soaked in blood, their mother's blood. And it's all over that child's face, clothes, their tiny hands. And someone finally notices and says, "Mommy," and the child says, "Mommy, you know, Mommy's with a man named whatever, and she went to sleep." This is not fiction. It's not a drama. It's sadly happening every day. And this is the true story of Maria Camila Garcia Molina and her daughter. So, Amanda, do you want to talk a little bit about more details on that?
Yeah, this is a really, really hard story to talk about, just because of the precautions that this took to protect yourself how the system failed her and how her daughter is now going to be forever without her mother, but traumatized by witnessing the death of her mother. So basically, Saturday afternoon in Miami, a 3-year-old was found wandering around the street with her, as we said, covered in blood. And when they were able to discover what happened, they were able to discover her mother in the car, and then she was killed by her stalker. This was someone that she actively took a protection order against. She did everything that she was supposed to do to protect her and her daughter, and it just wasn't enough. He stabbed her several times in horrific ways, and I can't imagine the fear of this child. But not only was discovered that he had a Apple ID key, like a tracker
The
on
air
yeah,
tags.
air tags. Thank you. Yes, I was trying to, and that that was how he was able to find her. And Tara, I have to tell you, when I read this, I have found this is more common. That a lot of mechanics are seeing this. I've seen this on different TikTok platforms of people leaving their husbands and finding this.
Right.
Especially if in court battles or they have a bitter ex or anything. And this is something that I think that is scary because she thought she was protected. She thought that she could live her life, and she wasn't. And now people are kind of, again, when you go back to, as Tara, personally, when you're doing everything you can as a survivor to protect you and it fails, that's when society really has to understand there has to be more behind these steps of these women taking. We cannot just say, okay, here you go, but we're not going to take the other precautionary steps, because even though he had this piece of paper, and I say that piece of paper from the court telling him he cannot be around this woman, there was nothing physically taking him away when he was making sure that she had this air tag, that he was able to track her. I mean, she was in a public parking lot. She went at her home residence, so she was probably out and about with her child on a
Right.
Saturday, a Saturday like we all do, right? We run errands. Saturdays are usually us moms' days. We'll take them to go get breakfast, have a nice, and that's what hurts my heart. And that's probably what she was doing, just doing a normal Saturday routine with her child and thinking that she was protected. And that's one of the biggest things in this case that really, I think, is hard.
Well, I think that this case brings to light something very important, like you were touching on, the air tags. The air tags are being used in ways that they were never intended. Intended to help people find their things that they might get lost or stolen. They're not intended to keep track of people. Now, I've seen some, of course, on social media, some good ways people are starting to put them in their children's shoes, right, in order to keep their children protected in case of predators. But what happens when something good like this is turned around and used and something that creates fear, violence, makes it easier for the stalker or abuser to attack a person? And like you were saying, uh, I had read that across the country, mechanics are literally finding these in 50% of the cars that they're working on now, these air tags in places. And it can be out of relationships or out of trafficking, right, that they're
Right.
finding these to use these against people so that they can stalk them, hurt them, find them, do whatever it is. So it's really a tale of having to be very hyper vigilant, very cautious, for anyone who has left an abusive relationship.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is. And
Well, and we
as
got
you
some
can,
comments in here like
oh,
Amber.
we got some.
Yes,
Yeah,
already. Amber says this
we're
is
got them rolling
heartbreaking.
in, right? Yeah, I love this.
And let's see, Jim says, just hearing this creates anger and rage in my soul. There is no death too horrible for the man who did this horrific thing. I agree. And we got another comment from Christine that just came in, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes, we did. I'm going to
whoops. I think we shared it together and it went down.
now.
There it goes.
Oh, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop. We're so excited, Christine. Oh, there we go. All
Christine
right.
says, been running for more than 5 years. He finds us everywhere we go, state to state. Protection orders haven't helped. There is no real help, financial abuse as well. We have been homeless for almost 3 to 5 years, living in cars and shelters that created more trauma. Do you all know how to find real help? Oh, Christine, it is so heartbreaking that you're going through that, because a lot of us have been through that. And we do have a support line that can help with some resources, help you find resources, if you want to call that. I'm sure Amanda can put that number here in a little bit for you. But the commonality
Absolutely.
here is just finding good people, good organizations, and sometimes you're going to run into some bad ones along the way, unfortunately. And
I'm going to
it's
promise you, Christine, it's
devastating.
not easy.
Hmm.
It's not easy, and I feel for you. And oh, we did right there. There's a support line. We got it in there for if you do
Okay,
call.
great. Thank you.
Yeah, they can give you resources in your area. But yeah, we definitely agree. It's hard. Not all the resources are good resources. Um, but it's definitely there is people out there. Don't lose hope. I promise you, it took me a long time to find the help I needed, but once I found the help I needed, it made a difference.
Yes, because we've been through those kinds of experiences. Even Amanda has been in shelters. I know she was going through what she was
Yes.
going through that weren't so great.
Yeah.
And we had an episode not that long ago talking about a shelter that created more trauma than they did good. And when those things happen, it's horrible. But the best thing you can do is definitely, I think you're doing everything you can do. I want to say
Oh yeah.
that, Christine.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
you
And you're
just
doing it in
do
the
that.
hard way. And that's the most utter respect for you because when it's that hard and uncomfortable, it's hard with the emotions and children. So be proud of yourself for doing this. And I promise you, there will be a part where it gets a lot easier. It's hard at the beginning. It
Mhm.
really is.
Yeah, well, and she said she'd been doing it for several years. It's hard,
Oh my
when you have to
goodness.
do it for
Oh
several
yeah.
years,
So that
absolutely,
years.
it can be so
It's
draining.
and I do commend you for keep going. And I commend you for that to keep going after those years. Yeah,
Yeah, but find you a
absolutely.
good support system. Find you someone, whether it's a counselor or a support group, somebody like minded to help you through it. Absolutely. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
well, we had another question in here.
Yeah, we
But
did. Um,
I'm going to let you pull up the question. I'll read it. Let's do it that way.
okay, yeah, that's a good system because we're just so
That way
eager.
we're doing it at the same time, y'all. Any
We're
help?
very eager, guys.
Yes. Any help for someone who survived DV but was sentenced to prison? Um, so
That's hard.
that is hard. So are we talking about someone who actually like is in prison, but they are a domestic violence survivor as well, and had to get
They're
some
in.
court, because that's one of the things that the we discussed that on another podcast a couple of times back, that a lot of women who are in prison have a there's a domestic violence background back in their role, and a lot of times their sentences are unjust. So trying to fight that system, but a lot of times there's resources or different even books and stuff if they are in prison themselves that you can send them to help them. Um,
Mhm.
but I don't know, Amanda. Anything else you can think about that?
There is different groups that do advocate for that, and I know there is too. So I definitely try to find a community because we know as well. There's been a lot of women, again, if this is the issue, if someone's in prison for a domestic violence case where they're the one that was just protecting themselves, there's a lot of injustice with that. And I know there's a lot of different advocacy for that too as well. So
Mhm. Yeah, and check. There's usually local ministries there at the prison. Maybe you can get something to help them in through that as well.
but I do agree with Tara. There is books you can send, I believe, through Amazon that they can receive directly to the prison.
Hmm.
It's my daughter. She had an altercation with her boyfriend and he ended up getting killed. Okay. No,
Okay.
yes, I understand. Yep.
Yes. Yes, I would try to send some stuff through that, whatever you can through the prison system, different books or anything, and check with the prison ministry as well. You
But
might find some help there.
there's other organizations too that work with college students that do kind of legal aid for people who are wrongfully convicted as well. I would look into that as well.
Hmm.
They might be able to help you with your situation with your daughter and give her some more legal resources again because they do this as kind of pro bono.
Yes, and absolutely. And also, these are the kind of resources that our support line definitely will help find and provide you so that you can contact these different areas. So please be sure to use our support line number. Um,
Absolutely.
so, is there any other questions or comments you want to display?
Let me see if we got anything else in that time. We got one from Elizabeth. I did the same thing on Streets and Shelter from Abuse, and it does get better. It's just finding abuse and not know how to get away from it. And if I should, I'm so exhausted. It is hard with that cycle. It is. Um, it really is, especially when we have a hard time trusting after abuse. Sometimes we want to heal a little faster than we're ready to, and it's hard, but it's definitely doable. But it's Elizabeth, it's very exhausting. It took me a moment to find my husband, and I really struggled with dating and trusting in general after abuse. It's very exhausting. It can
Mhm.
be, but it's possible again to get through. It's just learning to trust people's intentions again.
Mhm. And I just want to reiterate the ladies who have been commenting in here who are still, still going through it and stuff. Like, I'm so sorry. You should not have to endure this. I'm sorry that you're having to go through this because we have been there. And if no one has told you you're worth this and worth the effort and you're doing a good job, I want you to at least hear it from our mouths here. You are worth it and
Absolutely,
you are doing a good job. Just keep up
you
the
are.
fight. Keep up the fight. There are some people to support you. You just got to be diligent and find that network for you.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. And
you, yeah.
Charles said survivors need support, not prison. And I think that is awesome. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Much
Mhm.
more support. And I think that the understanding of the protection would be much better in the court systems. I
Mhm.
agree.
Yes. And let's see, you want to bring up Tracy's comment?
Sure. Is she a little bit up? There we are. We got some good questions coming in today, guys.
Yes. Says it's a very uncomfortable subject to discuss. It absolutely is because I know my family has been through this subject that we're talking about here ourselves. How that how this ends tragically. Said horrible news, details, and outcomes are so traumatic. However, the more awareness is the key to help others to get help. Absolutely. It is a living
Yes.
nightmare. We need to lessen our tormentors' power by diminishing their ability to get away with this. Amen. Yes, I totally agree.
Keyword power. That's what I
Yes,
agree.
absolutely.
I agree. So I believe we addressed the comments. That's awesome. I'm so glad to see you guys engaging and keep
Yes,
going. We love interacting with
absolutely.
you.
Yeah, that's the whole point of this,
Yeah.
is bringing up these tough issues and having these discussions. So, back to this particular one before we move to our next topic. Um, definitely, this definitely, her case points out how they have weaponized restraining orders, right? And the courts failed them, and the use of air tags helped fuel this stalking. So we definitely need to be trauma informed and care specifically for those who are enduring it, but especially the children who are witnessing it. So, Amanda, is there anything you want to highlight on this particular one before we move on to the next topic?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's just making sure that when it comes to protection orders, we're understanding that we're not only protecting the victim, we're protecting everybody in the line of the victim as well. This is a crisis, and I think that it needs to be more made of protection of things that we need to take more serious, especially when there's children involved. Because as Tara said, that 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 is that child is going to live with so much trauma. And I know that some people think, oh, it's a three. No, that is in her brain imprinted, indented for the rest of her life. And I'm praying for this sweet girl that she will be able to have the support and resources to get her through this traumatic event. But we have to remember that domestic violence is a national crisis, not it's not just introverted to that person. It spills out onto the community and everybody around them, and we need to do better. We need to do better because this sweet baby,
Absolutely. We definitely
yeah.
need to do better. So, we're going to take a small break real quick to hear about our store. If you didn't know, Break the Silence has a store. So, any of the great items you purchase there will help support our advocacy work. And we will be right back to talk about some government funding issues and another horrific case that has made the news. So, stay tuned. We wanted to pause for a moment and let you know that Through the Eyes of Survivors has a shop now open. And this is a great way for you to not only help survivors of domestic violence, but also let everyone know that you will not be silent about this important cause. From t shirts to bags to coffee mugs, we have so much to choose from. To grab your swag, head to our store at breakthesilencedv.org. That's store.breakthesilencedv.org. We can't say enough about how much we appreciate all that the community does to help support us and this organization. So we hope you've enjoyed this episode and continue to subscribe to future episodes. Thank you. We hope you're enjoying. And we are back. Alright. Yeah. So, in this next segment, we're talking about how right now there are some pretty important programs that um, are being defunded. Now, I understand out there's some, I'm all for defunding of stuff that is not beneficial to the public, but this one I'm kind of passionate about just because of our circumstances as a family and stuff, and that is that the defunding of research for uh, pregnant women and domestic violence has been slashed right now. So, um, the federal funding from that was slashed. It's aimed to protect pregnant women from domestic violence because many people don't realize that out there statistically, more pregnant women die during their pregnancy from domestic violence than from any disease or accident. And so it is definitely a big, huge issue. It's a health crisis in this country. So the funding was cut for studies that trained doctors and healthcare workers to identify the warning signs of abuse for pregnant women. Um, because it was labeled as part of the DEI. I personally do not subscribe to that. It's part of that kind of the thing. Uh, like I said, I feel like this is a public health crisis, and it shouldn't be regulated to in politics in a political way. So, um, but um,
Oh,
the thing is that these studies and the knowledge from them help ensure that more women will not die. And
totally.
since it is the most leading cause of death for pregnancy and postpartum women actually in America. So it's not preeclampsia, it's not blood clots, it is homicide. Good old homicide is the number one cause of death. So let that sink in to anybody who's listening. And like I said, my family knows that all too well. Our daughter was 4 months pregnant with her incident. So, cutting those programs focusing on women's safety, especially during one of the most vulnerable times in their lives, is sending a message that is just not good, I think. And I don't think it's purposely sent, but I think we need to raise a voice on this issue. Amanda?
It's crucial. I was in my domestic violence relationship for all three of my children. I was abused for my two first pregnancies, and I wish that that training would have kept going and been more substantial, especially when I was going through it. Because the one thing that these women is we go to gynecologists every so often once we get more further in our pregnancies, and it's weekly at the end, and resources could help not only protect this woman who's going to be giving a birth in a couple weeks, but also bringing a child into this world to give them hope that they can leave prior to this child being born. Help her so that she is not going to be at a crucial part, because as Tara said, it is one of the leading causes of death in pregnancy, especially with when like in domestic violence. It's sad, but it's so often we're seeing this happen, and again, I just think it's so crucial that we have the community that is dealing with pregnant women knowing and being educated so we can prevent um, these things happening. And some of these women that are coming in don't even know that they're into domestic violence relationships, and they could be saved before it gets too late. Again, it's just these crucial parts of steps that I know personally. I am so blessed that my life wasn't taken, but there were so many times during my pregnancy where me and the child could have been really severely hurt. And it would have made such a difference to be able to go into my gynecologist's office and for the nurse to do a simple screening where she could tell the signs. And this is what this funding is helping. It's helping people of professions that come across these women and have contact with them, whether it's the birthing nurse, like when they're in labor, and they could tell the signs of the partner being domestic while he's in. I mean, because they show signs, guys. They really do. And if we can get our professionals to see these signs that are not so big, like the yelling, the screaming,
Mhm.
and be able to help these women before, that's so crucial. And again, even to Tara's story, this is the legacy that Tara's trying to carry on for her daughter and her granddaughter and other domestic violence that's
Well,
gone through this.
even
We
in
need.
speaking out for myself, I will say this in my own marriage, the first marriage I had, I miscarried a child due to the violence that was perpetrated on me. I lost a
I'm
child.
so
I didn't
sorry,
lose
Tara.
my life. I lost my child's
Oh,
life.
my child. Yeah,
And these are the things that people don't talk about, how devastating that is. And
absolutely.
um, I know from when my trip to the hospital, it could have made all the difference if the nurse or the doctor would have noticed some of the signs, the physical signs even, and were able to pull me aside and say, "Hey, we're here to help you."
Right.
And
Absolutely.
that's the kind of thing that this funding is crucial for. So I'm very adamant and a big supporter of that for that reason, on top of Ashley's reasons.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because this is not something that um, this is the type of thing that puts out a vibe of and I'm not a big person on the government take care of everything for you, but it puts out a big sign of that you don't matter,
Yeah.
that your safety is political, and safety should not be political, and death
Or
is
worth.
acceptable risk, right? It it's not just about budgets,
Mhm.
not on the important things. It's about what we value enough to put in our budgets. Do we value this enough to take up the gap and help fill in the crack here, because the statistics are staggering.
Badly.
That's the big thing.
Mhm.
So, Amanda, did we have any questions or comments in there?
We just had Missy saying helping people see something and say something when they do, and that is true. I mean, it's the small things of, and yeah,
Mhm.
we had Jim come in and said no one will ever hurt you again, and
That's my dear sweet husband that
that's your
I
sweet
have now.
husband.
Yes,
Yeah,
he's been such a blessing that um compared to the first husband I was married to. And I know no one's going to hurt me again. And the thing is I don't depend on that just from him. I know from myself because I've done the work. I value myself now,
absolutely.
and I didn't value myself before. I have taken the steps to heal. I've taken a stand in my family to say no. We won't have this generational curse keep on through the family any longer, and I have good people, including my husband and friends and family, who are there to support me and stand with me and say no, we won't accept this any further. But
Absolutely.
unfortunately, it took us losing a daughter and granddaughter before we found our voices. And that's what I want the public to know. Don't wait to lose someone before you find your voice in this
Yeah.
matter. So,
Okay.
um, yeah. Any
Other
other?
questions or
Yeah.
no?
No. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then we are going to take another just very quick break. Just show you a brief video clip on volunteering. So, we're putting out a big call to action on volunteering here at Break the Silence. We need volunteers like never before. Um, we speak directly to those who feel like fired up. That's what I want, is people who are fired up, who feel like have felt helpless before, but they're in a place now to help support other survivors, listening to their stories, helping to impact their lives here at Break the Silence. We need volunteers. So BTSADV runs because of people like you, survivors, advocates, allies who step in and say, I can give an hour. I can manage a social media DMs. I can check in on survivors. How can I help? And so we need people from graphic designs to the Facebook post you see to moderators here in this podcast. We definitely have a place for you. So we're going to play this short clip and be right back and do our final segment on Marnie Miller. If you haven't heard about that case, it's very fascinating. So we'll be right back. are back. And if you missed any of that, please, there should be something in the comments, a link to where if you wanted to find out more information or apply, check out our website, www.btsadv.org, and find out more information. Amanda and I would love to see you in our next informational meeting with volunteerism. So it's definitely a great place to
Absolutely.
volunteer. Here, like 95% of our volunteers are survivors, just like you out there. So please consider joining
Absolutely.
the movement. So, our last segment, this last story is about control and manipulation, and how even in death, an abuser can attempt to dominate the narrative. So, her name is Marnie Miller. Her ex
Yes.
boyfriend, um, yeah, didn't just take her life. He filmed her lifeless body and then set the video to another man to try to frame him.
Mhm.
So let that sit in for a moment, right? He turned her
Yeah.
death into a weapon, not just to erase her, but to harm another person, to twist the truth and to orchestrate a story where he could walk away clean. And this too often gets labeled a crime of passion. But this is not a crime of passion. This is calculated, it's cold, it's a chilling reminder of how abusers often think 10 steps ahead, trying to manipulate everything from their victims and the justice system. So, you want to give it some more details on this case, Amanda?
Yes. So this is something. This was her ex boyfriend. He sent this to.
Yeah.
This was her ex boyfriend, which was to be like kind of like a crime of passion and putting it back forth on him. So this was a Ohio man, um, and he was actually charged with fatally stabbing a woman he called his soulmate. He made up fake profiles, social media accounts, and then sent this picture of her body with the song of Chris Brown playing in the background, "Stutter," which is a popular R&B artist with a song that kind of, I guess, he was trying to put out the mean. It's very, yeah. Tara's face is like what I'm saying. Like this
That
was very
makes me
premeditated. This
little.
was very thought through. Very. I mean, he picked a song, guys. He picked a song. And that's where I'm kind of like, there's no way this wasn't premeditated. And because of like, there was just so much emotion and anger. And again, because they said that the messages of one of the several was sending to elaborate, they found messages plotting this in his phone of just different things. I mean, they could tell through just the obsession that he had with her. She dated him once and ended the relationship. And this was just one of those things where he could not move on. He could not move on. And yeah, he definitely did a lot of damage with his obsession. And this is what it is, guys. This is an obsession. This is something that turned fatal because of a man who obviously could not take no, lived a false reality in his head, and this poor girl's life was taken because she made the choice of not wanting to be with someone, anybody. And I tell my children this because they're getting to the age of dating. Nobody has the right to tell you you have to stay in a relationship. Everybody has the right to leave a relationship, married, not married, engaged. If it is not for you, you are not ever bounded to that person like it is a commitment. And but to this man, he was with this woman once that they dated, and we don't. There's really no extent to how long they dated, but from what I take it, it wasn't a very long time, and she just kind of moved on, and he did not, and he began stalking her. So this is one of the things that is another issue, um, is the not being able to say no, and then the technology abuse that's being used behind it, that he stalked her with, as well.
Mm.
So
Mm, mm, mm.
we did get we did get some comments though. So Jim said this. I'm going to bring Jim's up so we can read that. This organization is a blessing to many, both seeking help and volunteer serving is a blessing. Come and volunteer for BTS, those in need. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank
And I
you.
know,
Yeah.
thank you, Jim. I'm
Looks
trying to
like
get
we
it.
have a
There we
question
go.
in the other one. You want to bring
Okay.
that one up?
Is it the one below?
Yeah.
Okay. What can a woman what can a woman do who married a drunken husband but the man started drinking after they've been married for so many years? That is tough. That's tough because they change into a person that you didn't know prior to committing your life with them. So
Absolutely.
that is a tough thing. But you do have that right, as I said before, to not have to stay. You have the right to not want to be a part of that anymore, especially if that wasn't something that was presented prior to taking your vows. That's almost like deceit, almost,
Yeah, there's a
for
lot of things
sure.
in life that happen, unfortunately, that we have no guarantees when we enter any relationship that comes into it. I know with my ex, there was nothing seen for the first year and a half of our marriage, other than some verbal stuff that it should have sent some red flags in my head, but didn't. But I was already invested by that time, and
And
and a lot of times these type of situations, they tend to feel like they've been invested for so long, if they can just get them back to that point in time. But the thing they don't realize is that those kinds of things that happen like that have blown up the whole world. Whether it's from drunkenness or abuse or adultery or whatever, that world has been blown apart. And too many times survivors or people in these relationships, men or women, are struggling to get back to this place of what they were. You will never get back to what you are. You have to take everything forward from, what can I do with this now? How can I rebuild this now? Do I rebuild this with someone that I'm with? Depending upon the situation, with this being where you're talking about a drunkard, can they get help and get out of that and into a better situation, and you rebuild something? Or is the rebuilding you getting out and taking care of your children, and creating a new narrative for you all? Because at that point, when these kinds of situations come into the world and destroy the world, there is no recreating from the broken pieces of what was destroyed. You have to start anew, period. Period. So that's kind of my thing on that. Jim says sometimes these monsters cannot be avoided. What are the key things to watch for in new relationships? Amanda, do you want to start, like, some of the key things to
oh
start
my,
for?
watch how they respond in stress and anger. Watch that. That's a key. I mean, in all honesty, start looking for basic life skills. It's wonderful to watch the way they treat you, but unfortunately, in some domestic violence cases, especially with narcissists, they could treat you wonderful at the beginning, but you only see their true colors of when they are put under pressure, or something doesn't go their way, or if they're stressed out or you mess something up. And don't be so forgiving if there's something that's really gnawing at your stomach and you're like, this ain't right, then it's not right. Because that, don't talk yourself out of it. Your instincts are key. You're not crazy. You're actually more alert. I promise you. You're
Mhm.
more alert than you're gonna realize. And I've learned that over years with my healing. I'm more alert now than I was. And trust that alertness. That is now your mind and your body and spirit trying to tell you, uh, red flag. Trust it. And if you need to talk to someone about it, then go have that community. Go to other domestic violence survivors. Talk to them. They'll make you feel more secure in the way you're feeling. But the big signs is again, watch how they act in very stressful moments and how they treat people around them when they don't get what they want.
Yeah, absolutely. Actions speak louder than words. Number one. But number two, I would stress is that if in the beginning of new relationships, a lot of times if you see in the beginning little things of like manipulation and control in the beginning, it's just going to escalate as you get further into that relationship. And you need to see that from the
Absolutely.
get go. So those conversations need to be had at the very beginning of these are lines that you cannot cross. And if they keep crossing those lines, then you need to leave that relationship immediately. So
Absolutely. And if they're offended by your boundaries, that's a huge red flag. If they're offended, if they get upset, if they stop talking to you, um, that's a red flag. That's such a red flag. If you're putting your boundaries out there and it's already making them upset.
mhm. Absolutely. People show you who they are eventually. You will see
They
it.
do.
Yeah. And the
Yes,
thing is accepting what they show you. I know I
exactly.
did
Don't
that when I
talk
was
their talk.
young. I thought
Don't
he
talk.
had great potential and I could work with that, and I just had blinders on. I thought I could fix that, you know.
Oh, absolutely. His parents didn't love him enough. You
Yeah.
know, he came from a bad family. He just needs an empath like me to love him correctly. No, you're gonna destroy yourself before you help them.
Yes,
It's
accept what you're seeing. Accept it. They are showing
absolutely.
themselves. So
And
that is the
love
key.
bombing.
Mhm.
Love bombing too. If they're rushing you too fast, if they're saying "I love you" in an amount of time where you're like, "We just went on our first date," if they're pushing for things, calling you their wife, things that are just way too fast for their relationship. And I know this personally from my end. And I was young, but I do see this happen even with older gentlemen. They are pushing too fast to make you an item before they even gave you the time to respect and learn about them. That's a red flag too.
Yeah.
It's a
And
red
things like let's dive back into the topic of this case specifically. Um,
flag.
this is a huge case of digital abuse, right?
Yes, it
And the
is.
evidence didn't lie on that. And how are we failing with technology in this way? Because um, we know law enforcement just does not have the expertise or the resources to enforce the data that's flowing around out here. You know, the data abuse is just real, and it's something that we definitely need to, stress. Just like when we were talking about the air tags and everything, it they manipulate phones, our messages, our apps, all our communication tools can expose you, and they are weapons.
They
Those
are.
weapons are every bit as real as the knife and the what they shoot you with. Just so I
Yeah.
don't get in trouble here in social media land, but those are as real a weapon as any of that, because these communication tools are so utilized against you that they cause as many deaths as any kind of a weapon.
I
So
agree.
did anybody, like, was there any comments? Did anybody have experience with that as well? What they want to ask us about or anything as far as the data? Because that's a big thing here on social media. You see that all the time.
All the time, all the time. And I think that it's scary because I wish that like social media platforms would be a little bit more in depth on making sure that people can't continue to make fake profiles.
Yes.
Um, and it's Snapchat. Snapchat is scary, guys, because I have looked at and I have my children turn off their location because I've seen where it will show your direct. I mean, not just the summary, your direct where you're standing in your home where these people can find you. So if you don't, I mean, these apps have everybody kind of like, hey, Amanda's over at so and so on this street. that's so dangerous for, people who have protective orders. Or we definitely have to give grace that all of this technology is not wonderful for everybody. Even as we talked about Life 360, Tara, right? It tracks you.
It tracks your
It
whole
definitely.
family, and that is so great and convenient when you have teenagers, but it's not good when you're trying to leave somebody who won't let you go.
Right, right. I mean, I love having it because my husband works far away, so I like to see that he's safe coming home from work. Sometimes I'll tease him. I'll be like, I know where you're at. It's nice to have in certain circumstances if it's healthy. But I did have to talk to my daughter because these young kids are starting to now use it in their relationships, and I was like, unless he is paying your bills and you're married, he don't need to know where you're at all. At
That's
all. That is
right.
not even, I feel, fiance
And
level
there's a
sometimes. That
huge
is
red
no.
flag. But see, the younger generation just thinks that this is just a part of their normal technology, their normal
Normal
way of living.
technology.
It's so integrated into their lives that they
Right.
don't
It's
see
very, and
the
it's not, they're
harm.
not seeing the red flag.
They don't see the harm.
They're
They only see this
not, no, they
benefit.
don't.
Uh-huh.
Right. Because
And,
they do it with their friends and they think it's harmless, and it is different. Like if it's your
and
best friend,
it's
I
the
say like that.
cool thing, right? The something that the
But
parents,
again, it's
yeah,
just, and I said to her, I said, well, I don't want your friends always know. Like I have to remind them they're not just tracking you, they're tracking all of us.
there you go.
So it's
Yeah.
a different thing, that is. And that's what we need to realize too in these apps. We're not just driving around. We can have children with us, other people's children, other people's kids. We gotta be mindful with giving away our locations, not only for our protection, but for the people that we're responsible
Mm-hmm.
for sure. Yeah. I don't need to be seen at Starbucks when I'm not supposed to be at Starbucks. So, any questions, guys, with that? We would love to hear from you guys, honestly, even in your opinions on how you guys think technology abuse has affected things lately.
I think we do have a couple questions. I mean, Javier, we're all over the
Okay, good.
country as far as location with our organization. We're a national organization.
Yeah, we're nationwide. Yep.
Mhm. And then what's the other?
Okay, I'll bring that up for you, Tara.
Okay, so I can read it because I don't have my glasses on. Uh, what
Oh,
do
what?
you talk
Do you
about?
want me to read it?
Yeah, I got it now that you got it bigger. What do you talk about
Okay.
domestic violence among corporates or people who have high status in society? Well, the the easiest thing to do, I have found, because I have talked to some higher corporate people and high society people. Number one, domestic violence even spills over to high society. The numbers are not any different over there than it is for anybody else. And when you're trying to talk to people that have a higher, I don't want to status, but they're more educated or have a better circumstance in living and want to raise awareness and maybe create partnerships or make them aware, you've got to talk to them in a level of where it helps to make it personal for them. I always tell my story in a way when I'm speaking to people that I make it so that they feel that they can relate, that like myself or my daughter would be their mother, their daughter, their wife, their sister. Because when you touch at that heartstring and make that connection where they feel like they can walk in your shoes, then they will make a response. Um, if you talk to them in ways of where you're angry or shouting, or if um, you're just pushing to try to promote something, a lot of times they get so much of that at them, they shut down and turn a deaf ear. But if
Oh
you
yeah,
let them
absolutely.
know that for me, this is personal and this is why, then they start to listen. So that would be my advice on that. So,
Absolutely.
all right. Well, that looks like that's it for as far as the comments and everything. Amanda, is there anything you want to say before we start closing out?
Just make sure to Be safe, guys. And again, always make sure that when it comes to technology, to get education on it and to make sure to protect yourself as much as possible, because those platforms aren't going to take the steps that unfortunately they need to right now to protect you. So make sure to study up before you get on social media, especially if you're going something through something dangerous and want to make sure to hide your identity. There's a lot of ways to stay safe online. It's just understanding how to.
Absolutely. I want everybody to realize, this has a psychological impact on families and victims and their loved ones when their lives are taken. And definitely the manipulation and everything is horrible. So I want everybody listening today, just remember, like we talked about Maria. Maria was a mother.
Right.
Marnie was a daughter, and they're human
Absolutely.
beings. Someone loved them. They had
That was someone who loved them.
dreams, and their lives were cut off way too short. And there's a child out there right now who watched it unfold and has to live with that. And the other one, her body was turned into a sick pawn for a game. And still, we're questioning, still to this day, whether what we are doing is enough. And the truth is, it's not. What we're doing is not enough. We need a world that listens before it's too late. We need laws that protect without loopholes. We need police and courts that believe women and men, even when they are missing in a hearing. We need tech companies to create with abuse in mind. We need every person listening to understand this is just not someone else's story. This could be your story. This could be your daughter, your sister, your best friend.
Yep.
So if you or someone you know is being stalked or threatened or abused, do not wait. There is help out there. But first, we've got to build a world that
Right.
listens before another child is left in the parking lot, before another abuser controls their story, before the funding is all taken away, and the research and the studies and the training is not there to help people, and before another woman is defunded and forgotten and gone. So I thank you today for watching Through the Eyes of Survivors Uncensored. Please check us out on all our social media platforms. We're on all of them, from LinkedIn to YouTube, um, X, Instagram. You will find us under Break the Silence Against Domestic Violence, or BTSADV. And if you have benefited from this episode, please consider donating. You can shoot us stars there on Facebook if you're watching on Facebook. We have the website you can donate on, www.btsadv.org. Go over there and give us a donation to help us continue the fight and the great work. And until then, um, you guys let her rip. This is Through the Eyes of Survivors Uncensored, and we will see you next week.
Bye, guys. Thanks for joining us.